Hey everyone, Howard Gearhauser here with my dad, Dr. G. In today's video, we wanted to talk about zinc sulfate and how it's correlated to the COVID-19. There's some new information coming out that you came across, so we thought we would share it with you guys. So Dad, this is something that you saw. Could you go ahead and elaborate on your findings?
Yes, this is something that just crossed my desk. I didn't study it, or I didn't get the reference, so I'm sure you can Google it and get the reference. But they did a study in New York City, and this was a study of patients getting hydroxychloroquine and the azithromycin. Those are the two drugs that we told you about at the very beginning of this pandemic that was being used, and theoretically why they might be helpful. And so with that, they added zinc sulfate. So we also told you guys about zinc lozenges with zinc sulfate, and to maybe consider doing that, although it's, just pure hypothetical. But zinc does kill other viruses in your nose and your throat, like the cold virus, the flu virus. So it makes sense that it might be effective against this virus. So that's why we recommended it to you. And then there's been a lot of talk in the literature about zinc deficiency might opening the window for the virus to get going inside your body. So they actually did a study of giving zinc sulfate along with those two drugs to patients that were in the hospital in New York City. And what they found was the zinc had a much greater percentage of decreased risk of death if the zinc was added. So small study, was not randomized, not controlled, no placebo group. So you certainly can't totally hang your hat on this, but it looks good. It looks like zinc has a profound effect at saving your life. So hopefully we saved some lives when we mentioned that right in the beginning of the pandemic about using the zinc lozenges. I don't know what the dosage was. As I said, I didn't read the article completely, but you can, I'm sure, find that article. And then another article, this is another thing I've been saying for years. And this is, the vaccine mania. We get the flu vaccine. They want every single human being in the United States, babies, pregnant women, old people, to get the flu shot every year. And I never do that for myself because I just am not trusting when they've done no long-term safety studies of this. And then there was a study that I noticed that kids that got the flu vaccine every year had more colds and flus than kids that weren't vaccinated. They had more colds and more flus of other kinds besides influenza. So that made me think, when this pandemic hit, to myself, I just thought to myself, I'm sure glad I haven't been getting the flu vaccine every year, because there's this theory that if your immune system works hard on one thing, then it's going to be more vulnerable to something coming from left field. It's like an interference pattern. And so what was published, I didn't look, again, I'm sorry, guilty. I didn't look at it in depth. I didn't read the full article. But there's a study done by the military that was published. I'm not sure when it was published. I think it was just published like within the last month. But what it was a study of military people, and they had a group that wasn't getting the flu vaccine every year. I'm not sure. You would think the military, if the government says, hey, the flu vaccine is good, they would give it to every military person. But they have a group that don't get the vaccine. They compared it to the group getting the vaccine every year. And what they found is the group getting the vaccine every year had 36% more coronavirus infections than people not getting the vaccine. Is that scary? So if you extrapolate that out to an entire population of the US, you could say the flu vaccine might have killed thousands upon thousands of people during this pandemic. All the people that were getting their flu shots every year had a 36% higher risk. Now, here's the caveat. This may or may not be true. The caveat is The study was done in 2017, 2018. So we're not talking about COVID-19. We're talking about other forms of the coronavirus. So is it scary to think that this interference pattern happens with coronavirus? And here we have a coronavirus sweep through our nation, a nation that's told every man, woman, and child, every old fart, get the flu vaccine. And then that's going to raise your risk of getting COVID-19 36%, theoretically. Kind of scary. And it kind of goes back to, what happens in nature. The way we vaccinate isn't the way nature vaccinates. And so we're breaking a bunch of nature's rules without doing any safety studies or any long-term safety studies. So that's why I have a big question mark over vaccines. If they have aluminum and formaldehyde and fetal tissue in them, I'm going to say, hey, I don't want that injected into my body. But, it's up to you. And I'm not saying the flu shot increased COVID-19 because we don't know that. I'm sure they will do that study now. Somebody will, because you're going to get published right away if you do that study. But looking historically at coronavirus infections, it had a big effect.
And this goes, like you said, with everything that we kind of talk about. We want to go back to nature. We want to use a common sense approach. Does nature require vaccines for us? Not necessarily, but you need to do your own homework and make the decision that's best for you and your family. This is one perspective, and we respect your perspective too. Just make sure you're asking these tough questions and not just blindly consuming something that could have potentially harmful effects. So let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you guys on the next video.